Thanksgiving, not just the holiday, but a thankful disposition, may not be one of the 9 fruit of the Spirit, yet it may well be one of the things that cultivates the fruit of the Spirit in a person's life. With Thanksgiving Day being just a few days away, it seemed good to me that we should pause and reflect on this aspect of prayer and this quality of life as it expresses itself in an attitude of gratitude. Maybe like many people, you're setting aside more than just a day, but the whole month of November to remind yourself of the things that you can be grateful for this year, hard as it's been. But if you haven't been doing this, let me challenge you to at least put on an attitude of gratitude for this week. Taking a little time, perhaps at the beginning of your day, to reflect on and be grateful for God's goodness, His faithfulness in the midst of the year's hardships, with undoubtedly more to come. Remembering God's faithfulness, goodness, and sustaining grace through it all. You know, this was a pretty rough year for the pilgrims who landed at Pilgrim Rock 400 years ago as well. Maybe in the midst of all the bad things that have happened this year, and there have been plenty, perhaps we've forgotten to mark that it was actually 400 years ago this very year that the pilgrims landed in what is today Plymouth, Massachusetts. December 18, 1620 to be exact, was the day of their landing. And for the pilgrims, that first Thanksgiving was still almost a year away, when after their first successful corn harvest, they invited the local Wampanoag tribe and their chief, Massasoit, who had befriended and helped them, to a 3-day celebration of what has come to be known as America's first Thanksgiving. It was a day, or 3 days rather, of food, games, and friendly athletic competition, and also great thankfulness for God's goodness in bringing them to a new land of hope and promise. But it had been by no means an easy year. Imagine landing in northern Massachusetts in the middle of December. What a cold climate that would be. William Bradford, in his first-hand account, shows that it was indeed a grim and harsh winter that they came to. As we read in his autobiographical book, History of Plymouth Plantation. But that which was most sad and lamentable was that in 2 or 3 months' time, half of their company died, especially in January and February, being the depth of winter and wanting houses and other comforts, being infected with the scurvy and other diseases, which this long voyage in their incompetent condition had brought upon them. So as there died some 2 or 3 of a day in the foresaid time, that of 100 and odd persons, scarce 50 remained. And of these, in the time of most distress, there was but 6 or 7 sound persons who, to their great commendations, be it spoken, spared no pains, night nor day, but with abundance of toil and hardship and hazard to their own health, fetched them wood, made them fires, dressed them meat, made their beds, washed their loathsome clothes, clothed and unclothed them. In a word, did all the homely and necessary offices for them which dainty and queasy stomachs cannot endure to hear named. And all this willingly and cheerfully, without any grudging in the least, showing herein their true love unto their friends and brethren. And so, come through that difficult first winter they did, and finding by God's providence a friend in the English-speaking native Squanto. Squanto, as I found in a post by the History Channel, taught the Pilgrims, weakened by malnutrition and illness as they were, how to cultivate corn, extract sap from maple trees, catch fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. He also helped the settlers forge an alliance with the Wampanoag, the local tribe closest to them, which would endure for more than 50 years. So that in Book 2 of his history, Bradford writes, "Thus, out of small beginnings, greater things have been produced by his hand that made all things of nothing, and gives being to all things that are. And as one small candle may light 1,000, so the light here kindled hath shone to many, yea, in some sort to our whole nation. Let the glorious name of Jehovah have all the praise." Friends, their joyful endurance through such difficulty reminds me of the words of the Apostle Paul as he drew near the close of his first letter to the Christians of Thessalonica, where we read in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, "Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." Well, I know things have been hard for many this year, and for some, things will grow still harder. But in the light of all that the Pilgrims endured, haven't we in our day much to be thankful for indeed? Wishing you and yours blessing, health, happiness, thanksgiving, and God's grace today and in the remainder of the year and the new year when it comes. Happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for listening.